Good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining us from Latin America and Europe for this webinar on urban agriculture organized by the IURC program Latin America. My name is Trisha Hackett and I'm the leader of City to City Cooperation for the IURC program. And for those of you who may not know the program, it's a European Union funded initiative that promotes the exchange of best practices in urban development and international and regional cooperation in 24 cities and 20 regions in Europe and Latin America. That's our region, and another 100 or so EU global cities and regions around the world. We would love to know where you're joining us from, so please write in the chat box your name and title if that's relevant, and where you're joining from. It's great to know who's in the audience. We know we have people signed up from more than 10 countries, so that's really wonderful. Also, very importantly, a bit of housekeeping. The webinar has simultaneous translation in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, so you can choose your preferred language at the bottom of the screen. The presentations will be in English. So in our session today, we will have the presentations followed by a question and answer session on the transformative potential of urban agriculture as a catalyst for environmental transition and social inclusion. So we are going to hear about urban gardens as promoter of circular ecosystemic functions in cities and their contribution to climate change mitigation efforts. We're going to hear about the role of urban gardens as a catalyst for social inclusion. We'll discuss both the contributions and limitations of urban agriculture from an environmental and social point of view. And importantly, because this is very much what the IURC program is about, is exploring tools and methodologies for the implementation of urban agriculture in different contexts. So sharing some inspiring solutions and analyzing those key factors of success. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. So I'm going to introduce our distinguished panelists. We have Jay van Amstel, who's an agronomist engineer who worked with sustainable agriculture and social inclusion across the world in Brazil, France, Uganda, Thailand, and India. Very diverse context. And since 2020, he's been a consultant with the United Nations Environmental Program, coordinating a work stream on urban and peri-urban agriculture in Brazil. Next, we'll have Laura Galuso, who has a PhD in design and is an assistant professor in spatial and service design with the Politecnico di Milano. She's operational manager of the Polimi Decis Lab with the International Decis Network. And she's going to tell us more about that network in her presentation. And our third presentation are veterans from the first phase of the IEC program and now in the IURC program. We're lucky to have them again. Giorgio Scavino, who's a senior project manager and communication expert at ANSI Lazio, and Claudio Borde, who is the architect and planner and head of EU project at Risorse per Roma, the municipal agency for the city of Rome. So welcome this wonderful panel that we have and presenters today. And the agenda, the format for today will be 3 15-minute presentations, and then we'll have about 20 minutes for questions and answers. So I will be strict with the timekeeping to make sure that we have a Q&A. I'll let the presenters know when you have 2 minutes left or so. And in the audience, please, as throughout the course of the presentations, as you have questions, please ask them or put them in the Q&A box. And either we will ask the presenters live in the Q&A session, or if it's something very specific, our presenters are welcome to write a response directly in the box. Is there anything else? Just to remind you again that we have simultaneous translation. Okay, I'm going to leave the floor now to Jay.
Okay,
over to you.
Thanks, Trisha. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to thanks for this invitation, especially Trisha and Edgardo for inviting us and bridging us also with some partners from your network with different cities. We already talked with Porto Monte. That's very important for us for developing our work. So I will bring here some development that we had in policy science interface applying to urban and peri-urban agriculture. So briefly, I just would like to introduce the TIB, the Economy of Ecosystem and Biodiversity, in its application to agrosystems. Our aim is to promote the conservation of biodiversity and provision of ecosystem service in agricultural landscapes. And how do we make this? By making visible all the economically invisible costs and benefits of the eco-agri-food systems. Just to mention that we are in 12 countries, each country with a specific initiative, a specific research objective. So we have a very diverse public and private sectors works. And in Brazil, we have two work streams, one with low carbon agriculture and the other one with urban and peri-urban agriculture, which is the one that I will talk about today. So the first study I would like to share with you is this one that we made in partnership with Instituto Escolhas, and which we was trying to map which were the contributions that agriculture could give to São Paulo metropolis. So we are going to dive in a little bit on this study. And I think if we have time, I would like to share also our current initiative. So the context that we face nowadays is a rise in the number of people in starvation, and in the same time, obesity and overweight is reaching 30% of the global population. We have cities consuming 80% of the energy, and also emissions of the same amount. And we have projections of 9 billion people, how we're gonna feed them, and 68% of the population living in cities. So yeah, we're gonna have one scenario of 3 billion people with no access to basic sanitation, health, electricity, if we don't do anything. So those things, those challenges have a lot to do with the way that food systems nowadays are projected. So I bring here this image that's showing that the food system is very linear, and not all the time we're gonna see the impacts. The economy do not translate the impacts in the price or to the well-beings, of humans, and also to biodiversity. So when we are talking about urban agriculture, we are talking about changing the design of this food system to a more circular and shortened value chain. So we have the production, and we can come a short sequence to supply the consumers, and we have also the possibility to take the waste, mainly the organic waste from consumers, and to give it back to agriculture and close this cycle of nutrients. So we can generate here a lot of different benefits. So our work is trying to map those benefits. And so short distance can result in less CO2 emissions and better prices for producers and consumers. This relationship between consumers and producers may prioritize quality of the food, and usually be related to agroecological practices with more biodiversity friendly practices. Also, from the side of consumers, we can have adoption of healthy and sustainable diets based on local food, more adapted to ecological and climate conditions. And in the end, we can have this waste management, ensuring that the organic waste can become input for agriculture. So today, nowadays, we have a lot of examples of decentralized composting systems. So our first study area is the Metropolitan region of São Paulo, which we have 21 million inhabitants, with the more than almost half of this territory is still covered by forest areas, and we have 22% of pasture and agriculture. So we was looking for the different ways that agriculture are manifested in this territory, and we studied by typologies of this agriculture, seeing that we have medium and large commercial agriculture. We have also small agriculture, this around the city, what we call the peri-urban agriculture. But inside the city, the agriculture has also its types. So we have vertical farms, indoor cultivation without soil. We have also under the power lines, the croppings, and also some more activist spaces like community gardens, and the ones that you're seeing here is agroforest in the very middle of the metropolis. So our question was, which is this potential of urban and peri-urban agriculture to provide ecosystem services for São Paulo metropolis? So I don't know if everyone here is familiar with this concept, ecosystem service, but we try to understand which are the contributions that nature gives to people. So the main service here is obviously food production, but there are other types of service that agriculture provides. And here we are going to focus in the services that are important for urban management perspective. So this was our steps in our methodology. So we've tried to be very participative process. We refined our research objective with stakeholders. We selected which one would be the ecosystems to assess, and we defined data. We ran our biophysical models. So we established some scenarios. We're going to see scenarios from 85 up to 2030. And then we try to understand the policy implementation of those scenarios. Huh? So we're going to pass very quickly here, just showing which were the modelings, the biophysical modelings that we used in this research. So the INVEST model have some options for urban space. So we started with flood mitigation, heat mitigation, water production, and sediment production, and also food provisioning, which is the basic one. So those scenarios, we're gonna see now that the result is structured in a comparison between those scenarios. And we have our baseline from 85, and we compare with now, 2019, and also project for 2030 what could happen if nothing be done. So it's our business as usual, BAU, or if we're gonna have some expansion and a transition to a sustainable urban agriculture. So just to see here the land use change in the metropolis. So I invite you to look in the color gray to see how much the urban expansion occurred in the last 30 years. So in 85, we have this size in the urban fabric, and in 2019, we have much more space being covered by the urban fabric. So mainly under agriculture areas and forested areas. So this has a lot of impacts in ecosystem service that are very important for well-being in the metropolis. So also our projection for 2030 was still expansion and how agriculture could change this future. So our alternative scenarios was based to find out where urban and peri-urban agriculture could expand inside the metropolis. So we choose areas, we prioritize the allocation of agriculture inside areas without food supply and with high vulnerability, social vulnerability. So what we called also as food deserts. So we program our future scenario, our alternative scenario to expand urban and peri-urban agriculture inside those areas. So also even the organic agriculture, organic horticulture, and also agroforest systems. So the results are very interesting. So we have the baseline here in the blue color, and we compare with BAU. We've seen that the ecosystem service provision, they go down in most of the cases, mainly in water use and also the area for food provisioning and also flood mitigation and a lot of heat islands. So those results really correspond from the phenomena that are being more and more present in this metropolis with climate change. So we see here in green how this alternative scenario for 2030 could cushion the impacts of this urban expansion. So maintaining the same levels that we found for 2019. So just to bring some of those results, we saw that there is a potential to supply 13 million people, and also to cool 0.2 Celsius degrees. So this amount of sustainable agriculture could function as 3 flood control pools. So by intercepting the runoff in extreme events of rain, strong rains, and also to make the sediments and to get better the water quality. And we detected also trade-off. The expansion in agriculture would also increase the water demand. So here we point that if this expansion would be supported, need to adopt more efficient irrigation systems. So this was a comment that we heard from Island dwellers, that the city has a lot of land. So here in the slum, says this sir, it's a granary of people from different regions. So, and people know how to crop because they already work with that, orange, grape, candy, coffee. So telling that still we have a lot of human and social capital inside those areas, and that this could be possible. So how the public policy can make this potential grow and give a scale to those kind of projects, to those kind of land use around cities. So this is our second.
Hi, Jay. You have 2 minutes. I know you're coming up to the conclusions in any case.
Okay. So I will try to wrap up here in 2 minutes. So how we have those results about the benefits of the ecosystem service of agriculture. So how we can make this possible by public policy and with cooperation with civil society. So we are developing now this guide for urban and peri-urban agendas at municipal level. We have partnership with the Ministry of Citizenship and also FGV as our research partner. And we are trying to mainstream those results to cities' decision-making process. So providing ways to assess and develop the UPA agendas at municipal level, which means here to scale those initiatives in the ground or creating an institutional base for them. So our public targets now are municipal public agents. So I think it's a point in common here with IURC that we are really understand that now the protagonism of this 2030 agenda is mainly through the municipal and the cities. So this, I would just invite you to make part of this process. We are now passing to this step of public consultation. I will post here the link for you. Unfortunately, it's only for Portuguese speakers, but yeah, maybe there is someone interested to contribute, and where we are trying to synthesize all the benefits that urban and peri-urban agriculture can bring in social, human, economic, and environmental dimensions, and also to understand which are the instruments that we have in public policy that can scale up UPA at municipal level. So, and how they interact between them, among them, and how we can have the institutionalization in parallel with the multiplication on the ground of those initiatives. So, Tricia, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm available for answering any questions here or in the QA box in the chat. So feel free also to contact me, my email, and to have a look on our links. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jay, for that presentation. There was a lot of information there, and it's great to see the context and those maps showing the changes in Sao Paulo over the years. I think has a lot of impact, and that raises some questions for me as well. But I'm going to save my questions for the Q&A. And I think one thing that's I've had a chance to see all the presentations, so it's so interesting to the audience will see the linkages and kind of overlapping between the presentations in very different contexts. So I'm going to stop there. Thanks again, Jay. That was great. And now we'll move across the Atlantic to northern Italy and we have Laura Galuso, who now has the floor to share with us what's happening in urban agriculture in Milan, or some of the things.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Okay. Yeah, my presentation is about one specific case in Milano in the past year that we designed and we worked in the past 10 years, more or less, we as Politecnico di Milano. So first of all, I'm Laura Galuso and I'm assistant professor of Polymedes, which I already presented. And I'm an operational manager of Polymedes Lab, that is part of the DISIS network. DISIS is designed for social innovation and sustainability. So we work with local communities to co-design and to co-build public spaces and also services, initiatives from bottom-up initiatives, let's say, with the inhabitants and residents of Milano and other location in Italy, but also in other countries, of course. So the Polymedes Lab is one research lab in our institution, in our university. We work with kind of structure, so we work a lot with the activists, with citizens, with the local associations. We work as researchers and as teachers with our students at university, and we work also with the public administration and with companies if we need, trying to put together all of these actors, trying to have a strategic and systemic approach to design, and trying to use the co-design methods and tools to support and trigger social innovation in different fields. What the meaning of design for social innovation is trying to recombine and redefine different and existing assets, trying to live in a better world, let's say. And the role of design in the social innovation field can be the role to help the citizens, the local people, try to work on innovative practices, trying to transform them in practices that can be more effective, more impactful, sustainable, and meaningful. So through the design tools and through the design methods, we try to help the communities to develop ideas, to develop transformations in terms of inclusivity, social engagement, but also physical and spatial transformations. We live we work a lot in urban context, not only urban, but especially in urban context. And our cities are, in the last years, but usually, I mean, in a general way, our world are really changing. And we are trying to, I mean, we are assisting different kind of natural and not directly natural catastrophes. So we are living in a very difficult and challenging period of time and difficult era. We try as a group of researchers to try to start from a local dimension, from the neighborhood, from this idea of proximity, from this idea that small changes can really change our world. So we try to have also different point of view in our cities, on our idea of public spaces. This is just one of the possible examples now of reshaping, redesign public spaces. This is a square in Milano that was transformed thanks to the municipality and the cause that municipality launched in the last years. The idea is to change small things, small parts, public spaces, not in a from an urbanistic point of view, but really from the human scale. So really put the human and also the not human, the other agents that work and live in our environment, trying really to put them at the center. You know? For this reason, we try to design with people and not for people, as a human-centered design teaches. Our role is to support the communities to try to activate the bottom-up changes. And today I want to present one specific case that is the convivial garden in our campus in Milano, in the campus, one of the two campuses of Politecnico di Milano here in the city, in Bovisa. The name is Coltivando. We started more or less 10 years ago in 2011. The main actors are the local community, the inhabitants of that neighborhood, and the academic community. The idea was to open our campus. The owner of the campus is the municipality of Milano, but the use of the campus is of the university. So usually in the past, you can see only academic and students inside the campus. And the idea was trying to reopen this space, the campus, to the neighborhood, to the inhabitants, with different goals. So we have of course, the cultivation areas, but we have also a lot of social activities that we carry out there. We offer self-construction activity, but also food production, of course, confection and distribution with the neighborhood, with the inhabitants, gardening workshop, but also academic courses, visiting schools, and all some activities linked with our university. We try to put together the cooperative work with the practical knowledge, and we have different kind of short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes. So we can speak about, of course, as short-term outcomes like the fresh organic food, the physical exercise, the community inclusion, the education. But also we work on long-term outcomes like the sustainable lifestyles, the shared resources, and regeneration of the social fabric. The context, as I already presented, is in Milano, is a peripheral area of the city. This map is the map of our campus with the buildings, and the green area is the area of Coltivando. This is some pictures of the area before our intervention, so in 2010, more or less. And from 2011, we started this this process with an elective course with our students. The course is Temporary Urban Solutions, was an elective course for our master degree students. And we developed an event open for all the inhabitants to do different activities inside the campus. One of these activities was the gardening. So from these very small beds, we started the activity of of the garden. In a way, we want to develop the campus as a dynamic place with the students, with all of our activity, linked with the university, but also try to recreate a link between the campus and the neighborhood and the surroundings. Also because the campus was before a factory, and most of people, the elderly inhabitants of the neighborhood worked in that area. So it was interesting to reopen this area for them. Our goals are for sure social, so we want to engage the community. We also want to produce food, of course, and also to experiment with students and researchers. We built this activity, this garden, through co-design activities for a few months with 80 citizens. And then we really built and co-built with them the structures of the garden. Here you can find some numbers. It's more or less 100 square meters at the beginning, but now it's bigger, and we have different types of vegetation and different fruits and many different things. We use a lot of this space with students as a space for workshops, for initiatives with them. So we work there also as a teaching space. And a few years ago, also a group of students work on this new product. This is a new beer produced by the fruits of the garden and with a local brewery. So it was really a very a project based on this idea of proximity that I mentioned before. So these are keywords, you know, the collaboration, the co-creation, the idea of these different communities that sometimes cross each other. The actors are the research group, the Politecnico Lab, and in general, the students and the research of Politecnico. Plus, sometimes we try to involve different companies, external partners, and then the local communities, the inhabitants, also the schools and the students of the neighborhood. After this expertise, after this work on inside our campus, we decided to apply with a research project called Campus that was also awarded by Compasso d'Oro, that is the most important design award in Italy, but also on international level. The subtitle was Incubation and Settings for Social Practices, because the idea was to transform the campus, so the university campus, in a place where we can incubate, we can try, we can experiment social practices. We started with the idea was to spread our competences also in other area of Milano. We work on a big green area in Bovisacca. The owner in that case again was the municipality of Milan, but we work with different local associations of that peripheral area, and we work through workshops, through co-design tools and methods to design and to build this big piece of land, because it was 5,000 square meters, was an abandoned green area, and we with the local association we transform this area. Then also different schools, kindergarten, but also middle schools of the neighborhood asked us to transform, to work with them and with their community to transform their gardens. So we work with different ages, with different communities, with different also spaces. And we try really to transform them in a community garden, but again, not only as a place of production, but especially in place of social interaction. And in this case, it was just one of the activities that we have done, putting together the students, the inhabitants, the local association together to really build and to try to transform the areas that we worked in during this research project. So thanks a lot, and I'm available for questions here, but also my email.
Thank you so much, Laura. I especially loved those photos, and it really gave a sense of, really helped us to envisage what you were talking about and see how the community was involved. And one kind of clarifying question I had for you is, and you showed the slide with the actors, and you talked about obviously the university and the local community who was involved, and then you mentioned that the lot had been abandoned. Was that land owned by the city, or what was the city's? I understand they didn't have a direct role, but did you have some negotiation with the city, or did they own the land? Or
yeah, in both cases, in our camp, the owner of our campus the field is the municipality, then the Politecnico can work in the area because there is the university organize and manage the area of the campus. So we don't have a direct contact with the municipality for our garden in the campus. But then for the other that I mentioned in the neighborhood, in Povitacca, but also in other parts of the city, we work with the municipality, with past administration, not the actual, and we work also on sort of guidelines for other possible green areas that people can transform with bottom-up initiatives in convivial and community gardens. So we try also to expand in a way our competences and our expertise with the small areas in more general and valuable in other contexts guidelines. So we work in this way with the municipality.
Great. So the municipality takes advantage of the experience and expertise that the university has in your department, and this
yeah,
great.
We had a continuous exchange and dialogue. Yeah, and also for the second place, I mean the area, the big area of the other neighborhood, the owner was the municipality, and they organized a call, a public call, and a local association is the administration of that area. So they won the call and they organize and manage that area, and they ask us to support this process. So we work absolutely side by side with the municipality.
That's such a great example of cross-sectoral, cross-stakeholder collaboration between the university, the municipality, and the local community. And it's such a great asset-based approach, you know, the assets and skills that you have from the university, obviously from the local community, but also the physical assets and the attitude of the city or the municipality of Milan of valuing urban agriculture and wanting to see it expand, and how that can happen, not just in a top-down way, but as you say, a bottom-up co-created way. So thank you very much. I'm sure there'll be more questions. I just wanted to clarify that as we're a city-to-city program. So I'm always wondering, where does the city fit in? Okay, great. Thank you. Come back to you to everyone in the Q&A. So we are now, for our third presentation, we have a duo, as I mentioned, our IEC and now IURC veterans from Anzi Lazio, from Roma, Giorgio Scavino and Claudio Borde. We're delighted to have you join us as well. And you're the last but not least, great complimentary presentation coming up. So over to you, Giorgio and Claudio. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. So Claudio is starting. So I'm trying to, I have to share my screen, of course. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect. It's on full screen. Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks, Claudio. Over to you.
So now I'm starting to tell about the experience of Rome, and with Giorgio. It's curious what Jay Van Amstel from São Paulo said regarding the it's always about FAO sources. 821 million starvation victims in 2017, but at the same time, on the other side, I have another data from FAO regarding 800 million people around the world that practice urban agriculture. So it's really a very curious data. So, but in any case, what is very interesting is that the phenomenon of urban gardens is on the rise. and especially following the pandemic, because people have begun to really to devote themselves to greenery, and this is very very important to say. And in Italy in particular, according to other data from Coldiretti Association, there are many Italians that have started cultivating urban gardens in particular to save money and these war and pandemic anxiety. So there is a sort of relation to social issues and economic issues, not only environment, quality of life, and the style of life. So on the other side, the other information, I really follow the question addressed to the speakers, and you can read the question in the left of my slide. And so in Rome, everything started in particular after the crisis in 2008. And for these, urban gardens have become really a very important tool of the local communities. It is also very interesting what Laura Galuso said from that the Politecnico of Torino supports the community. It's amazing what she has shown. And what is really the opposite in Rome? It is the community that supports the municipality of Rome in the field of urban gardening and of urban agriculture. It's really the opposite. In some way, we can say that the community supports the community itself in Rome. So it is another, we can find in Rome another aspect, another characteristic. And it's also because the citizens, the active citizenship is the feature of the city of Rome. And in Rome, we have 60% of its territory that is green area, and almost 50% is agriculture area. It is a huge territory. I was also, yes, I was just saying that the territory, the surface of the municipality of São Paulo, and but it is more than 20 million of inhabitants. In Rome, we have just 3 million, but the surface of Rome is as big as the territory of the region of London, more than 1,200 square kilometers, sorry. And for this reason, in some way, we can also compare the situation in Rome to other capital cities in the world, knowing very well that the particularity of Rome is that the citizens are really part of the process from the beginning. And it is what we learned from the first European project we have conducted in Rome since 2013. The project I referred, the first one is Civic Med project under NECBC Med that involved cities of the Mediterranean area. And so this is just to show to you the process that started after the crisis. Many projects under European funds that started in order to to collaborate more with the community of Rome that is so strongly engaged in greenery and in urban agriculture since the crisis of 2009. So this just to show the different project we have developed along the activities of citizens very independently from one, as I explained, because it is on the initiative. It's a real bottom-up approach we have always had in Rome. So we just try to follow the trend, the process we have in Rome on the initiative of the citizens. So not only CiticMed project, after other project named Gardenizer, that is this particular professional figure of the facilitator that can help citizens work together to the local authorities. In fact, thanks to the European project, a new process started. Not only the community was engaged in the city, but also the municipality, and the regulation of urban gardens that was approved in 2015 is the proof. And other initiatives of the Green Wave in Rome are not only under Erasmus program with the Gardenizer project, with the development of this professional figure, but also under URBACT program, that is a urban project that stands for rural urban. And it is the experience that Rome started in 2018, transferring the good practice of the urban garden with the community, with the engagement, the strong engagement of the community in the different neighborhoods of Rome. This good practice recognized by the URBACT program, because Rome was awarded in 2017 as good practice city in urban agriculture, and many cities have became the beneficiaries of this good practice in Rome that is fundamentally based on the bottom-up approach, involving cities of Portugal, Loures, that is part of the metropolitan area of Lisbon, the city of Caen, Krakow, Coruña, Vilnius, and Thessaloniki. And then the second edition under URBACT program, Urban Second Wave, involved, and it is currently ongoing project involving the cities of Algeciras, Split, Alexandropolis, and Carlo. And after this experience, many other projects we have experienced through Horizon 2020, the project EFUA, that is a European Forum for Urban Agriculture, and it is a very ambitious project that is aiming to develop new policies for the new programming period in the European Union, and also to diffuse largely in Europe the urban agriculture phenomena. And other project under Horizon Fusilli, that is more oriented towards food security. And of course, the experience we had on the IUC program in 2020, a pilot that was implemented in Barranquilla, Colombia, starting to transfer the good practice of Rome in the city of Barranquilla. And now we have also a new fund from EuropeAid program. The project is named Generactor, that is a more concrete project in terms of implementation of urban gardens in the city of Barranquilla, but everything started thanks to IUC program and of course the more recent IURC program. And what factors are key for the realization of a successful urban garden project? This is one of the questions. How to engage the community, as I explained very well. This is in the spirit of the citizens of Rome, in the engagement of the community. And in fact, what is really important to say is that urban garden is the new Italian piazza. So in the urban gardens of Rome, everything can happen. During the COVID-19 was emergency, during the lockdowns, it was the only opportunity citizens had to be in touch with the, of course, as we felt the necessity to be in touch with the connecting with nature, but also the opportunity to continue to socialize with people, because the city of Rome agreed with the citizens to continue to use urban gardens. And other many activities, as you know, thanks to the volunteering, because you know that urban gardens is based on volunteering. This is what I said also regarding the engagement of citizens. The active citizenship is based on volunteering fundamentally. So what are the main barriers? I'm trying to accelerate because I think that otherwise for Giorgio remains too short time. The main barriers faced in the creation of urban gardens. This is another question. Many: finance, space, organizational structure, water, the soil, problems of communication, participation issues. And what we have really experimented along the European project I mentioned, in particular urban project, is that the figure of a gardenizer is crucial, because it is a professional figure that plays an important role in the governance model, in reducing conflicts between the public body and the private one, between the citizens and the municipalities, between also the gardeners, of course, in the management of the urban gardens. So it is something that we are now seeing also through the new project Generactor under European program with the city of Barranquilla, that this figure is very important in order to animate, and also to facilitate the development and the management of urban gardens in the city of Barranquilla. And of course, as also the other speakers have explained very well, social inclusion is really is part of the our urban gardening. Another point is also that, as I said, the urban gardens are Italian piazza, because during summertime, we have also many cultural events like cinema. So we have many important events of socialization between the inhabitants. And also, as you know, intercultural, intergenerational, and it is the opportunity of integration also of migrants and refugees. So just to complete my presentation and to give the floor to Giorgio, the general indications shared between the cities of the urban network as a recipe that we can transfer to all projects to the cities is the use of participatory processes that is so important. And I've seen that in the case of Milan, for example, it is the Politecnico di Milano that gives the initiatives and support the community in this sense. And in Rome, it is the local associations of citizens that are the animators of the participatory processes. And spaces to implement the urban gardens. In most of the urban part cities, the first urban gardens were implemented on underdeveloped municipal land. So municipal land that was abandoned areas and decayed areas. And so it is also the opportunity of regeneration processes in the cities. And the measures for the startup is what we have shared with the local communities and the municipality, and this part of the regulation of urban gardens in Rome is that is under responsibility of the city administration to prepare the land, the accesses, to install irrigation taps, and to connect the municipal water network, and to create the basic infrastructures. And then it is the community that develop and they provide the urban gardens with the tools in the following. But now I give the floor to Giorgio, because I'm afraid that I have
no, it's
really
okay. Just to,
yes, we just have
yeah.
a few minutes, Giorgio.
Yeah, very few minutes. Only
Yeah.
to underline the importance to recognize the human behavior in the local context. For example, thanks to the ancient agreement from the National Association of Italian Municipalities and the oldest environmental association in Italy, Italia Nostra, for the enhancement of the theme of urban gardens, was developed, for example, a bottom-up approach for a guideline to create urban gardens, for example, at the national level. And also, I am, as a consultant of ANCI Lazio, the branch of the National Association of Municipalities in Lazio region, an expression of this commitment is the project mentioned by Claudio, the Generactor project for the cooperation with Colombia under the European Development Fund. What I would like only to add is that always during the focus group, we talk about the next slide, please. We talk about the urban agriculture as in the importance to have a dialogue with the heterogeneous map of stakeholders, because for human activities happen similar phenomena that happens for biodiversity in ecology. Biodiversity strengthens the productivity of an ecosystem, agricultural land, forest, lake, and so on. And in fact, it is been shown that the loss of biodiversity contributes to food and energy insecurity, increases vulnerability, and natural disaster also. So decrease also the level of health within society. As a benefit for stakeholders' activity, for example, thanks to the University of Perugia in Italy, we received a guidelines, was created guidelines to help those who work in urban gardens and cultivate appropriately in an organic and agroecological way. Turning back to the social aspect, the richness of biodiversity is important to strengthen new plants also for human population. So it is also important to create a collaborative context to strengthen the same living areas in which we face of the challenges we have. If we have a social integration strategy, for example, through urban gardens, green living area, we will be able to improve quality of life, but also to strengthen and consider a broader perspective of an urban green governance based on the principles of the integrated sustainability. So many main benefits are provided here in this slide, and the photo is from the Lazio region green urban gardens in between. So we can talk a lot about the importance of education, but also the strict connection with the tradition of the specific territory and the richness of the different behavior and human population. The last things I would like to underline, it is that thanks to also in this case to some European project like DIDAS, that is a dynamic data analytics services, so open data platform for the analysis of a big amount of data, and another project like MEFIS, that is to use the geospatial data in order to analyze the green area and the possibility to maintenance starting from the satellite like Copernicus. We talk about a high-performing platform to harmonize data and protect the green areas. We launch tomorrow. We will launch in hackathon for this challenge related to the using of geospatial data, and this is the hackathon. Yes, the virtual hackathon under 5ware, and yes, in order to have more strategy to use data and to protect the green infrastructure. I thanks a lot to all of you, and in particular to Jay Amstel, in order to the speaker, Jay Amstel, also Laura Galuso and Claudio, because they talked about social innovation, but also about the necessity we increasingly need to calculate the value of natural ecosystem, natural heritage, ecosystem services that we often take for granted sometimes. But the beauty and the care of the identity characters are an asset to be preserved and to be calculated to a great economic and more balanced, successful work. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Giorgio and Claudio. That was extremely comprehensive presentation, and demonstrating the importance and value of urban agriculture in Lazio, Roma, from starting with a cultural and historic perspective, to the use of data, to social inclusion and community engagement. And we're very fortunate in the IURC program to have you as part of our program, as part of our cohort, and willing to share all these years, the cumulative years of experience and expertise that you've gained through all of these European programs, and then being part of the IUC program and the IURC program, and your great willingness to take that learning and all the challenges that we know that you've had over the years, and to share that with other cities, not just, and also I know you've worked with Malaga before, and now in a cluster with Malaga, and not only with Barranquilla in Colombia, but with Cali. And I'll just do a quick plug that it's not only sharing now with your partner city and a cluster, but we have an event in Barranquilla next month that is going to focus on nature-based solutions and urban agriculture, where we'll have more than 20 cities who will be coming. So that's very much a component of this new phase of the IURC program. Is not only working with your bilateral city partner, but also working in thematic networks and giving more cities through Latin America and other European cities the opportunity to learn from the great experience that you have in Rome. And also, being Roma and Lazio being a part of programs like URBAC, that you have the skills, which is a really great capacity for your city to understand kind of the principles of knowledge transfer and adapting, because that's the core of what the IURC program is about. It's about cities being able to, and us being able to facilitate through this platform the best practices and helping cities to perhaps not make the same mistakes that you had to make 10 years ago, and supporting your colleagues and peers. So I know we had a question in the chat about whether these presentations will be shared. They will be, as well as the recording, because there's a lot of information there, and there's a lot of links, and these are just kind of high levels. And we have we're fortunate to have Ronald Hall from DG Regio in our audience, and he made the important point in the chat, confirming that the EU regional and urban policy is being promoted now more than ever at the local municipal level. And he says the idea is that they conceive and implement their programs with high level of autonomy from national and regional authorities. And I think that's a very important point. And he also notes, that Rome is a great example of that, and using vehicles such as the ITI, the Integrated Territorial Investments, and community-led local development. I think that's very important point to make as well. And it's this rippling out effect that I think more and more that the EU is supporting, that knowledge doesn't just stay in a report somewhere or is siloed, that it's shared through the various mechanisms and platforms that the EU, the Commission is supporting more and more all the time. So if I could ask our other presenters to turn on their videos. We have a couple of questions, and I'd like, I always wish we had more time, but these things, so we just have a few minutes. We had one question from the audience that was kind of touched on, but I'd be interested to hear your take from your different contexts. What are the main barriers faced in the creation of urban gardens? I know that you've all presented a lot of successes there, but if you had to name kind of one or two the main barriers that you faced, be interesting from different contexts to see how they resonate.
Yes, from
Giorgio?
my point of view, yes, Tricia, thank you for the question. I want to say something in controtendenza, in opposite to the general situation. Yeah. So the fear of the monetizations. Sometimes local population can organize themselves to and can absolutely improve their activities, like to open, for example, a restaurant. Like in a circumstance in Rome, there was a spontaneous urban gardens that had a lot of problems, and to overcome that, create a cooperative and realize a little restaurant with an amazing success in the territory. So it is a very little example, but very important. And there is a sort of fear of successful from the bottom-up approach from people. So we do not, we need to give more attention and give instrument to improve the activities from citizens. This is from my point of view.
Great, I like that. Thank you, Giorgio.
Yeah, Trisha, so I think we have a lot of challenges, and here we could hear the presentations on how to engage community, and I would say also expand this question for how to engage public manager. So I think social and human capital are the basis of this, why this piazza is taking the scene, and what we can get if we are successful in achieving those alliances between civil society and managers. So I think we should be able to show those results, which also is a great challenge, the point of view of research, and what Giorgio Scavino was showing, how those instruments also needs to be rethinked. So we need to have a lot of investment in research and development to capture those benefits, and to also to translate them to a ready-to-use knowledge also. So we have, in our research, we have a lot of challenge with spatial detecting of small croppings. We don't have urban and perurban agriculture in official databases. Urban farmers are not recognized in the census, and typologies and territorial expressions, the heterogeneity of urban and perurban agriculture don't have a systematization and also the values that this practice can bring. So not only those instrumental values that bring something to humans, but also intrinsic and relational values that this practice would have. So how our frameworks of research and public policy can be more open to those questions, and how we can translate also build bridges between policy and science to make all the urban agriculture upscaling. So I think civil society, it's a great lab of innovations. We are developing tools for identifying this type of urban agriculture. We have amazing experience, as Laura was showing, and I just remember my time in the university. We'll do the same, but a little bit more small scale. And we need now, I think, to understand the interdependence between agriculture and a legal framework, a legal support from municipal level. Understand that agriculture without legal framework or institutionalization, and also institutionalization without the practice, we will not have upscaling process of this practice. Yeah. So these are some challenges that we are facing, and trying to find ways, dialoguing with researchers and also policymakers.
I think that's a really good point, and it's kind of moving what urban agriculture with kind of this cute little, like, oh, we'll just have a little community garden, into something that's much more integrated, at scale, systemic, really to be able to make an impact both on, you know, across the board, from food distribution, from availability of food to, you know, climate change mitigation. So it's a great point. Laura, did you want to mention anything here? I'm sure you have lots of. Go ahead.
I totally agree. I think the ingredients of success probably are for sure the community engagement. So how the community is involved, because sometimes we work with some local communities in urban agriculture field, especially, for example, for the schools. It's not easy to maintain the same level of interest also in other seasons, in other years. So depends on many different things. So I think this is the most important element. And then for sure the other is the dialogue with the municipality and the legal aspect, because when we work with other areas of the city, we really work with the municipality to frame the condition to develop the urban gardens, and it's not easy to identify the right frame, and also to support the different communities that want to open a community garden, to work on it. So I think these are the two elements. So I agree with the other discussion.
Thank you. I think it would be really interesting, you know, maybe at a later point to have a session specifically on like what are those challenges around and barriers to community engagement, and, you know, from the different contexts, how you've overcome them. Because I think there'll be a lot of things that relate to human nature that, you know, would be relevant across different countries and cities and contexts. Dive a bit more deep, as you say, and so we're just a few minutes over. Before we wrap up, I would love to give Giorgio said you're willing to answer that. I think it's a great question from Andres Colorado, who's asking, you know, what are the possibilities for integrated urban agricultural strategies along with other initiatives such as transit-oriented development? Is it a feasible task considering the expectations and interests around land prices and revenue? So Giorgio, if you'd like to answer
yes,
that.
I like very much this question.
Sure. Yeah,
and
me too.
For sure, part of this question I back to Jay von Amstel, because my consideration is that, as I mentioned, we need to calculate the ecosystem services in our territory. So how there is the possibility to the carbon credits, for example, market in future would be very strategic, the possibility to offsetting the and to consider the ecosystem services. So the work done by Laura Galuso and also Jay van Hamstel is in this direction from my point of view. It is very, very important that the Center of Research and universities also with working with the municipality, working in this direction, because we do not consider enough the value of the natural ecosystem services and the natural value. So Jay van Amstel, if you want to add to help me in answer better. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Giorgio.
Yeah, I think we really got straight to the point, Giorgio. And yeah, we have a lot of challenges on choosing which one of those ecosystem services we are going to calculate, because basically we cannot bring all of the ecosystem, all the possibilities. So it's very important to be a participative movement inside of those researchers frameworks, which we can bring together the different actors. So yeah, I think create a space where managers can interact with urban farmers, can interact with consumers, and also retailers and private initiatives. So to understand that which one of those ecosystem services are more important for them and for society also, because we can never forget that we depend on those ecosystem services. Everyone depends on them, and we also can produce them, or we can provide them mainly in the urban context. I think there is a particularity that this gradient of proximity with the public targets raise the value of those ecosystem services.
Yeah.
So if we have a farm in the rural areas, they are sometimes quite in a great distance from urban centers. So we don't know really much how this can impact us. But in the urban farming, inside the urban fabric, we can just feel, just crossing the street and passing by a public square with agroforestry system, we can feel the cooling effect of this kind of. So much more people can feel this effect in cities. So I think we need to rethink also the payment for ecosystem service policies to understand this particularity of urban space in green areas.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that we are trying to develop, but it's a little bit hard to also translate this, and all the payments for ecosystem services already an oasis. But how we can refine them to be more sensitive to this kind of land use that we are talking here, and not all of the types of urban agriculture will provide a vertical farm. It's very different from an agroforest system. So we also need to refine which kind of urban agriculture we are talking about.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. And I think that's a really good point, talking about it being hard. That's precisely what programs like the IURC is here for. We know that there's a lot of knowledge around, and giving a platform and a way for practitioners and policymakers to share that learning and work together on those solutions. So Laura, I didn't want to leave you off if you had something you wanted to add to that. No.
Oh, thanks. I totally agree with the answer.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, we've gone a little bit over, but I wanted, that was a really great question, Andres. Thank you for asking it. And it brought up probably more issues than it answered, but I think it also gave us some ideas, because as at least the IURC participants know, and for the rest of the audience, we have another 1.5 years of this program. And one of the things that these webinars help us is to understand what are the issues for policymakers and practitioners and our participants. And I think some really concrete things came out of topics came out of this webinar. This was very general, urban agriculture, but some really specific issues and challenges came out of this, which is be really helpful for us thinking moving forward, and as we go through the program, kind of getting more and more specific to help you all. That's what we're here for, to learn together from one another. So I would like to thank our 4 panelists, Jay, Laura, Giorgio, and Claudio, for sharing your impressive experiences in these great presentations. I knew this was going to be a great session, and from my perspective, it was. I love the presentations. You all have such rich and relevant experience, and we could go on and on. We could do 2 days together, but we'll need to stop here.
Absolutely.
We selected these case studies, that can be adapted to different contexts and geographies and governance frameworks. And we hope that the audience of urban practitioners and policymakers have been inspired. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'm still impressed that people are still joining webinars. I know everyone's really busy, so the fact that we have the great crowd that we had just goes to show that this is a really important topic, and we had speakers that attracted an audience. So that's very important for us. You know, if you aren't already, we invite you to follow the IURC social media and website where we have regular updates. We'll send you a link to the presentations and the recording. Just after this, there'll be a short survey, just a 2-minute survey for the audience. So please fill that in to help us as we're preparing for new webinars or future webinars. And that's all from me. Just thank you so much. It was an absolutely brilliant session. Really, really enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you at future sessions. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Nice day.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.